Hello, everyone. A very warm welcome to Psychology Talks. And this is the first episode of 2023. I took a long break from 2022 December to like now February, end of February. I took a little time to relax, rest, and to rejuvenate, to give you another season of Psychology Talks full of insight and full of new learnings. And I'll make sure that the guest will come and speak to you on the very relevant topics. So today I have selected the topic of how to heal from bullying, because lately I've been hearing a lot of stories about people are getting bullied. And I want to tell you here that not only young kids, but at any level or at any stage in life, people are being bullied. And when anyone goes through uh, the experience of being bullied, that experience leaves a scar, a permanent scar on their brain. And it is very difficult to heal from that scar, because at first they don't know that what has happened to them. Secondly, when it is happening to them, they don't know how to tackle with that. So it's a bit complicated and a complex situation. So today we're going to talk about how to heal from that experience of bullying. And that's why I have invited our guest, who is an expert on this particular field. And she is a PhD doctor, Dr. Jeniffer Fraser. She's an award-winning educator and innovative strategist. She's an author of The Bullied Brain. In her latest book, Jeniffer introduced groundbreaking brain fitness revolution, and it gives you a knowledge and power to reclaim your health and brain power. In that particular book, she talks about how you can learn to tap into healing power of your brain, which can address to that particular trauma and heal from the past relationship connections or even eating disorder. So let's welcome Dr. Jeniffer. Hello, Dr. Jeniffer. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much
And
for having me.
It's an honor to have you. Yeah.
It's an honor to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think it's you're from Canada. It's just the beginning of the day. It's just the start. Yeah.
Yeah, it's in the morning on Saturday. Yeah.
Yeah, and like from at my part, it's almost and it's the evening 8:30. So how amazing that we are connected from different part of the world. So thank you so much for your time and for joining us. And thanks to all the audience that who have joined us today. And please, whoever from the audience who have any comments, any question, please feel free to post, and we will answer during our conversation. And also let us know that where are you from, or if you have any comment and question, please feel free to share. So coming back to the discussion, as you know, this topic has been really it's been like a lot of people are going through bullying these days, and I've been hearing a lot of stories, not only from the kids but from the adults as well. So you have been expert on this, so we're going to talk about this. But before we start our discussion, I would want you to tell our audience about yourself a little bit, that why you chosen that particular field, what is your early life is about, and how you moved into that particular area. So just tell us a little bit about your work, about your life, and about your book.
Well, I did a PhD in comparative literature. So this was at the University of Toronto, and we were trained to take different discourses. So we might take finance and psychology, or we might take anthropology and literature, or journalism and it could be psychiatry, anything. So we would take different discourses, and we were encouraged to have them come out of their silo and put them into the arena to see if it changed our understanding. So this is The Bullied Brain is my fourth book. But my books going all the way back have shown this kind of pattern that I'm only really seeing now as I'm older. And it's very much your work, actually, Ambreen. Now that I say that, I realize it's very much this kind of concept of destiny or the universe moving through you in ways that in your own presence, sometimes you can't recognize, but when you look back, you do see this pattern. So in my first book, I was looking at rite of passage, the idea that many of us are readers of culture. We grow up, we learn, we participate in the culture that has been scripted into our brains, essentially wired into our brains. And then there's a small group of people who break with tradition, who break with the rules, who break with that particular perception of reality even, and they're kind of rebellious and they're revolutionary and they offer a different view. So we see this in science, someone like Galileo, someone like Einstein, people who completely offer a new way of interpreting how we exist in our natural world, in our universe. And then you see it in art as well, or in literature. You have somebody like in Canada, we have a group of painters called the Group of Seven, and they radically changed the way in which we understood our landscape and the light and the wilderness that we lived in. And so they're very famous for that. In Europe, you have the Impressionists, same thing. They completely changed our understanding of light. So throughout my time of writing books and researching and teaching, I've been always interested in how we interact, in particular with children. So I'm very interested in the dynamics between education and parenting and children. And that's been kind of a constant throughout my work. So I came to the Bullied Brain because I was teaching at a school, and it was a school I loved, and I loved my colleagues, and the students were amazing. It was an international boarding school with students from all over the world, and it was just kind of a wonderful place. But what happened was there was a bullying situation. It was very, very serious, and it was teachers who were bullying students. And that's when I started to understand that when you have educators, or you have parents, you have coaches, or people in the workplace, and they're manifesting these bullying behaviors, it's because their brains have been scripted and wired to behave this way. This aggression has been taught to them. So bullying is learned behavior. It's not natural to our brains. It's our children are born, babies are born wired for empathy. So I started to ask myself sort of academic questions around, well, if we're born wired for empathy, what is happening to our children and what's happening to the adults in our world where that empathy is gone? And they're actually manifesting very aggressive, very destructive bullying behaviors. And that's what I look at in the book. But I mean, as you've said, there's a major focus on, okay, well, how do we fix it?
Yeah, that's so inspiring that you have such a diverse experience. And as you mentioned that you've been in research, and as you mentioned about the Galileo and about some other research, and you're so spot on that, like as a human, we are wired to have empathy. But then over the period of time, maybe through some circumstances, through our past behavior, or parents, the way they treat us, this wiring change, this system change to something aggression, to something more aggressive. So that is very interesting. And as we were talking about before this show, that your son was a victim of that, and that was one of the major things that actually force you to write this book. So, but this is happening everywhere, and we see it not only in the education where the kids are, but at the workplace, and as in every relationship there is some sort of bullying happening. And at that point in time, sometimes people don't even know that they've been going through such bullying, because sometimes the bully, they make them feel that they are the ones who have been triggering this. So how would you say that, how to recognize the situation that the person is being bullied? Because sometimes it is go unnoticed and it creates a trauma on the person who's been going through. So before we have the discussion that how to heal with this, just let's define that what is bullying and how to identify the situation.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, I
so
think
it just froze a tiny bit. But bullying, essentially what's happened is, as you would know as a psychologist, it's a cycle. So the person that's bullying has a lack in them. It's very, as we just said, it's very unnatural behavior. And it's almost like, I try to think of ways to describe it, but it's like they have an emptiness inside them. Or if they looked in a mirror, they wouldn't see anything because their own identity has been so traumatized. So, if you think of the narcissist is constantly trying to make reality mirror them back in a solid way because they don't feel solid. They don't feel good about themselves. They don't have a natural sense of who they are. They don't have a feeling of relationship with other people that's caring and loving and connected. They don't connect with people. They look at people as almost like they objectify people to see how these people can mirror them or serve them. And so this is very much, even in children, you see these types of behaviors. So if you think about a child going to school who isn't feeling curious, they don't feel confident, they're not looking for their friends, they're not looking to learn things in class, they're not excited, they don't want to try things, out on the playground, or they don't want to go to the library and read a book or pick up an instrument. They are laser focused on finding somebody to make them feel more solid, more full, more able to get a sense of identity in the mirror. And so the way they do it is by, the oppression of someone else's happiness or comfortability or confidence, talent, all these, their creativity, their happy family, whatever it is, the individual that's feeling the lack is trying to absorb these qualities. And it's really interesting too, Ambreen, people say to me often, I was bullied because, and then fill in the blank, I was really short, or I was bullied because I was new at school, or I came from another country, whatever. And I always say to them, that has nothing to do with why you were bullied. It has nothing to do with you, period. The bully will oftentimes even cast a wide net to see who they can hone in on that will take a shame position, for example, like look down on the ground, hunch their shoulders, maybe grieve, anything that will stop the aggression. That's the perfect target. The bully, it's very difficult for a bully to get filled back up if the person that they attack pushes back. And this is it's a fascinating dynamic. I'm sure you see this in your work all the time.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you're absolutely right about this, that bully actually is looking for a victim, basically, where they can have some sort of superiority over them. Like, because all their life, they've been looking for some sort of a way to show the superior, because by inner self, their inner critique is so harsh on them that they've been actually going through this trauma itself, and they want to project it on the other, because the anxiety that they've been feeling from their inner critique, they want to put it on the others. And all the time, they've been looking for some person or some people where they can actually do that. And you're absolutely right when you say that, when people say that they're new or they're different, because it's not something because it's not the reason. The reason is the bully, that they've been trying to find out that who can be manipulated or something. So now it comes to the second question, that how to react in the situation when you realize that, okay, that they've been bullied, and someone is actually telling them or making them feel that they're worthless, or trying to avoid them, or trying to sideline them. So what should be the strategies or technique the victim should adopt to fight with bully?
Yeah, it's an excellent question. I think one of the first things, and I write a blog for Psychology Today. So I've written a blog about how to identify the dark triad. And the dark triad, and we don't teach people nearly enough about this. Everybody should learn about this at school. They should learn about it in sports. They should learn about it at work and before they get married. Because what happens is the dark triad is usually just referred to as a psychopath, narcissist, and Machiavellian. And as you know, of course, Sam Green, these people come by their suffering, honestly. They usually are people that have grown up in highly abusive, very unhappy homes, and they developed all these strategies to try and cope with a lot of psychological trauma. And so, but doesn't matter. Point being, if they're in the workplace, you need to know how to deal with them and how to recognize them. And it's difficult because we are trained to believe, we're trained to have an emotion concept, for example. And I use this example in my blog. So if I gave you a gift at work, Ambreen, your emotion concept, you'd quickly go through the file folder in your head. You would say, oh, I come from a family where gift giving is meant as a loving gesture. It's meant to honor me. That's how I'm going to interpret this gift at work. That's not safe because the dark triad individuals, your psychopath, narcissist, and Machiavellian, they are masters of manipulation. And they will give you a gift to let you bring down your guard. They will put on the romantic fiction. They will put on the face, the mask, they call it in the literature, the research. They put on a mask that reflects back to you what you want. So at work, let's pretend it's your boss. They tell you that they're going to take you places and they love your talent and they love how hard you work. And they tell you all these things. They seduce you into their world so that you trust them. And then they slowly but surely start eroding your confidence. They start to gaslight you. They do all kinds of psychotic behaviors that aren't natural, so that you don't pick them up. So I argue in the article, I say, look, we have to be aware that these people exist. They're a very small number, but they're very, very deadly. They can destroy a person. They can destroy an organization. And if I gave you a gift, you need to have two emotion concepts. One emotion concept says, in the past, from my family and friends, gift is a bonus. It's lovely. It's meant to connect. But I also know that there are some people who use gift giving to groom their victims. They use it to lure them in. They are bringing them into the net, the web that's very hard to get out of. So I must be cautious. I don't know this person. I just met them. Why would I believe everything they tell me? Why would I assume all of the offerings that they give me are safe? So I think there has to be this double response when you don't know someone very well. Do not assume that they actually have your best interest. And it's not a very nice thing to say, but it could save somebody from the dark triad.
Yeah, that's a very good example. Actually, the dark triad is you very rightly pointed out that people try to actually trap the innocent one, so they can actually manipulate them for their own reasons, for their own benefit. So that's very insightful. This is a very great insight. So now moving on to further discussion, that as you said, that they trap, and then we need to be really all time we have our guards on, that we would, like, when someone being extra nice to us, we should listen to our intuition. We should see that if the person is right, or we need to give some time for ourselves and to that person to show. The other thing I would also point out, that also try to find whenever you are having a relationship, even at the workplace or even at the school, between anyone, like your mentor, teacher, whatever. So try to judge the other person, or try to understand the person through their words and action, because sometimes they say that they will be there for you, or there's something, but you need to see that exactly, is it your benefit more, or is it their benefit more? This balance has to be mutual. Then the relationship grows in a healthy way. So as you said, so like, one thing is this, but once when the person is feel more victim, right? So what are the way to heal that scar? Because sometimes when the person is in such trauma where they've been trapped, as you said, that they attract, and they feel really bad after that, because at certain point with all their psychological tactics, they made the person feel really bad, and they've been using and manipulating them for their own good. So how to move out from that relationship, how to break that bullying behavior?
So I'm going to say 3 different strategies. So just to kind of reinforce what you just said, I think there's 2 ways that you can help keep clear on the reality of your own health and well-being. And one is keeping a journal. So if you start to suspect that a person is manipulating you or gaslighting you, and you're starting to notice signs that there's something unhealthy about the relationship, just as you said, Ambreen, trust yourself. So start keeping track. Date, it doesn't have to be elaborate. Date, time, words spoken, action taken. How did I feel? And so the next time when the person who's manipulating you tries to say, oh, that didn't happen, or I didn't mean for you to feel that way, or you have your own documented, it's almost like a fact checker. So I think keeping a journal of starting to develop a relationship that feels unhealthy, not a bad idea. The second thing is, if you might not be a writing type of person that way, that might not reflect you well, have a support person or a support network, or of course a mental health professional, even better. The person where you sit down with them and you say, look, this is what the person is saying and doing. I'm unsure about this. Is this healthy? And the professional, or even your support network, your family, your friends, can say something very off about that. Because when you're close to the situation, and most importantly, when you're dependent. So think, if you're in a marriage and you have children and your partner is the one that's bringing home the money, you're dependent on that person. And therefore, as you would know in psychology, you'll put up blinders to betrayal. It's called, yeah, you put the blinders up because your dependent status means you cannot afford to see that you're being betrayed. Who's going to pay for your children? Who's going to put shelter? Who's going to put food on the table? These kinds of desperate questions are what keep us in these destructive relationships. And similarly, at work, are you really going to quit? Well, what if you can't get another job? So it's better to be blind to the abuse that you're suffering for a certain period of time, because going back to what we're going to talk about now, what do you do when you have these neurological scars? How do you get yourself better so you're in a position to actually get out of the marriage properly, get another job, get yourself into a non-toxic environment? So what's fascinating to me when I read what the neuroscientists and the doctors and the psychologists know is that the brain changes physically when a person is being bullied or abused. And it changes physically. It can be seen on a brain scan. There are neurological scars in a variety of ways, which we can talk about. And most people don't know this. And we don't know it when we're in the situation, that the reason we feel the way we do, or that we're not able to concentrate, or we struggle to remember, or we're making bad decisions, these are actually based on the fact that our brain has been harmed. If we did an EEG, an electroencephalogram of the brain, we would see that, oh, of course you're not making good decisions. You're not being very balanced. Your memory isn't working and your learning is compromised because all of these different changes have happened in your brain. So just to put it in very simple terms, bullying and abuse do not have to touch the body to do significant damage to the brain. Words, yelling, assaulting, making the person afraid, threatening, belittling, humiliating, shaming, all of these things do significant harm to the brain. And the way they do it, and body, and the way they do it is by ramping up the sympathetic nervous system. So the sympathetic nervous system is, of course, Ambreen, you're an expert in this. It's the stress response. So when somebody's humiliating you or publicly shaming you, your brain interprets it as a predator. It's so harmful socially to us. We're human beings, depend on social connection. And if that status in your world, at work or at home or in school or in sports or arts, is being threatened, your brain automatically goes, oh, this is a predator. I'm going to prep the body and the brain, and it's like lightning fast. I'm going to prep it to fight. I'm going to get really aggressive and act out and lash out in all kinds of ways, or I'm going to escape. I'm just not going to go into work on Thursday and Friday because I can't stand it. Or I'm going to just be paralyzed in the shame and harm and hurt that's happening to me. Fight, flight, freeze. This is what happens. Inside the brain and body during the stress response, cortisol and adrenaline are released.
Yeah.
The oxygenated blood pumps up into the brain so you can make lightning fast decisions. You can see more clearly. Your blood pressure goes up. Your blood goes to all the limbs so you can run or fight. And your heart rate goes way up. Well, you can well imagine in the 21st century, if we are repeatedly having these kinds of stress responses because we have to go to work every day and we have a very abusive boss, or we go to school and we're, being bullied by another child or by a teacher or coach, this constantly activated stress response does unbelievable damage to the brain and body. It leads to chronic illness in midlife, and this is well documented in the literature, and it leads to all sorts of really damaging changes in the brain. So this is why I spend a lot of time in the book talking about, okay, if this has happened, here's the good news. Your brain is wired. It's innately wired to repair and recover. Once you know the evidence-based practices, you are empowered to get yourself right back to 100% organic brain health and body health too. But obviously I'm focusing on the brain.
Yeah, I mean, you have given so much scientifically proven information here, especially the way brain works. I think that's amazing. Your work is literally mind-blowing, I would say. The way, and that's the main reason people are blurred in their mind, because their mind is not working properly, and we will keep on repeating the same mistake because we don't know. And I'm so glad that you just explained it in detail. And I think your book is a must read by everyone who's been going through any kind of these situation, or even if they're not going through it, they should read it, because that's how they can prevent themselves, or at least they can point out that what's going on around them. They can prevent, if not themselves, they can prevent some other who have been going through it. They can help out. So that's really amazing information. Thanks for sharing. I know this topic is like, we can go on and on about it, but like with the limited time we almost reached to the end. But before I actually close the show, what one advice would you give to our audience today, where they feel more empowered, in the situation, that whenever they feel bullied, what one action they should take to come out from it?
Yeah, it's the book is full of a whole bunch of different strategies. So I'll give you 2 or 3 really super fast ones. So one fast one is, it's incredible how much aerobic exercise, any kind of thing you want to do, skipping, running, jumping, dancing, sports, anything, martial arts, anything you want to do, aerobic fitness makes your brain believe that you are in power, you're active, nobody's going to get you. You're telling your brain that you're in charge. And that makes it relax. It goes, oh, fantastic. And it calms down that sympathetic stress response. It can prevent the harm that stress does, toxic stress does to the brain, and it can also heal the damage that toxic stress has done. So thing number 1, aerobic fitness, powerful. Number 2, mindfulness practice. Again, when you do slow breathing from the diaphragm, you are communicating to your brain that it can activate the parasympathetic system, which doctors call rest and digest. That's when you're calm, you're relaxed, your brain knows that you're safe, there's no predators, and it can start to put resources and energy back into repair and restore, problem solving, social emotional connection, creativity, all the things that we love about our brain. But it requires you to really purposefully do deep breathing from the diaphragm. Can't be from the shoulders. Deep breathing from the diaphragm and being in the present. Don't be anxious. No anxiety, no thinking about the future, no thinking about the past. Stay present And if you can do that up to 27 minutes a day, it's absolutely neuroscientifically proven to transform your health and well-being and your brain health. So that's 2, fitness, mindfulness. And my last one I'll give you, as we talked about Ambreen at the beginning, empathy. You can work really hard to relight up, reactivate. If you're an individual that has been so hurt in your past that you're bullying other people, you can absolutely change that. But you have to create space between stimulus and response. Instead of defaulting always to an aggressive or fight stress response, try and do some deep breathing, try and do some empathy work where you try and look into the eyes of the person that you're about to speak to. Really see, the eyes are the window to the soul. Look into their soul, especially if it's a child, and ask yourself how you want to guide this young new person who's so dependent on you. And you can change. You can fire up your empathy neural networks and eradicate impulses towards aggressive behavior that maybe served you in the past when you were trying to survive a difficult upbringing, but you don't need it anymore. You can be a whole new person. And so, the brain's like a muscle. The more you work it hard at the things that you want, the stronger it gets.
Yeah, amazing. I mean, I really love these advice because like these simple steps, I mean, it sounds so simple and easy, but it can change and it can transform the person into a new one. So thank you so much for sharing these amazing insights. And all these, like, I know in like 20-30 minutes, you shared a lot of information. I'm sure our audience have learned a lot from you, and especially those who've been going through any kind of this situation. I'm sure it would have been very, very beneficial for them. So thank you so much for coming over and share all these insights. And thanks to all those audience that who have joined from all around the world. And if you have any questions, please even you can share here on the comment, and we can even respond later. And before I actually say goodbye to everyone, what is the best contact for you, like where they can reach? Because if someone going through any of this situation, they can reach out to Jeniffer Fraser. But she's very active on, I think, LinkedIn or Twitter. Where are you? You're more active on Twitter, I guess.
I'm active on LinkedIn and Twitter, and my website is just bulliedbrain.com.
Okay.
So it's the same title as the book, bulliedbrain.com. There's a form that you can email me through, and I will be able to answer any questions or concerns or support you in any ways I can. And the book is on Amazon, bulliedbrain.com, Heal Your Scars and Restore Your Health.
Okay, that's great. And I would highly recommend the book, the Bullied Brain, because it is full of these insights about brain and how you can heal these scars from these situations that you might have gone through. So please go through and check, go to the website. I will also share the link of the website after this show in the comments. So those who've been going through it, maybe like if you're watching this live or the recorded, you can just check out the comments, and then you will get to know. So thank you so much, and have a great day.
Thank you, Ambreen.